A deafening crescendo shattered the absolute silence of the void. Fortress walls of unyielding adamantium simply ceased to exist, ground into fine dust by a singular, monstrous chord. Golden palaces of our glorious emperor crumbled, not beneath the brutal strike of siege engines, but under the terrifying weight of a perverted, agonizing symphony. They marched through the pulverized ruins in armor of blinding pink and deep obsidian. Their faces were twisted upwards, laughing at the dying stars above. Such was the devastating arrival of those who once sought absolute perfection in every discipline. Now they bring only the majestic cacophony of utter ruin. Graceful movements that once mirrored the divine mathematics of the cosmos have decayed into a frenzied, sickening dance. Their martial pride became a toxic plague. Never before had the galaxy witnessed such a magnificent display of sheer arrogance. A legion reborn in the darkest depths of an endless chemical hallucination. The celestial spheres wept tears of violent violet. The very fabric of reality fractured, unable to contain the overwhelming magnitude of their sensory indulgence. To them, the screams of the fallen are not sounds of suffering, but the vital instruments required for their eternal, maddening masterpiece of sonic destruction. Look upon the shattered golden eagles buried beneath the toxic ash. They are fractured remnants of a time when these warriors represented humanity's ultimate peak. Now, a suffocating perfume of synthetic chemicals masks the stench of their profound betrayal. They chase a phantom of beauty that defies all natural law. Every shattered crystal pane sings a chorus of unimaginable depravity. They have traded their noble oaths for an endless pursuit of extreme, agonizing physical sensations. The once proud defenders of Terra have become mere instruments for a dark thirst. Their magnificent armor is now a vibrant canvas of pure madness. What drives a divine being to discard reason for such grotesque vanity? The answer lies buried within the tragic history of the 3rd Space Marine Legion. We must examine the roots of this radiant corruption. We must understand how the absolute pursuit of flawlessness ultimately led to their inevitable, catastrophic downfall. Prepare yourselves, for the truth is far more horrifying than any monstrous beast. It is a tale of unparalleled majesty, poisoned by unfathomable, arrogant pride. Come closer, acolytes. Within the shadowed walls of the sanctum of oaths, we alone preserve the forbidden truth regarding the Emperor's most beautiful, tragic children. I, your most humble servant, dare to open these rotting vellum scrolls. The flickering candlelight dances wildly across letters written in dark, viscous, ancient ink. This is a solemn record of the 3rd Legion. They were the Emperor's children, the only warriors ever granted the divine honor of the Palatine Aquila. Their gene sire was the majestic Primarch Fulgrim, the radiant Phoenician. He was a being forged to embody the absolute zenith of human aesthetic and martial perfection. However, this very obsession with flawless execution became the poisonous seed, a seed that eventually blossomed into the most terrifying symphony of betrayal ever recorded. Hear my solemn words, for this archive holds the tragic chronicles of the 3rd Legion. They were a magnificent force, uniquely blessed by the master of mankind. Before the heresy, the Emperor's children were the absolute pinnacle of martial virtue. Their devotion to aesthetic perfection and philosophical purity was entirely unmatched. Such was their immaculate loyalty that the Emperor personally granted them the sacred Palatine Aquila. It was an honor no other legion dared to claim. They bore this 2-headed eagle upon their breastplates with unmatched pride. Every battle they fought was meticulously planned to be a flawless masterpiece of strategy. Yet their origins were tragically humble. We must look back to the dark era when a devastating genetic blight nearly eradicated the glorious 3rd Legion entirely. Only 200 pure Astartes remained when the radiant Primarch Fulgrim was finally discovered on the bleak, resource-starved mining world of Chemos. Kneeling before the master of mankind, the Phoenician wept at the fragile state of his genetic sons. He vowed to rebuild them into peerless conquerors. Through grueling discipline, the reborn legion cultivated the elite Palatine blades. These swordsmen executed combat maneuvers with the breathtaking precision of a majestic ballet. Every bolt or volley was mathematically synchronized. Every strike of their gleaming ceramite gauntlets was a calculated stanza in a grand, glorious symphony of imperial compliance. Commanders like the proud Eidolon demanded absolute perfection from their subordinates. Failure was not merely a tactical error, but a deeply offensive stain upon their honor. Behind the pristine front lines, apothecaries such as Fabius Bile tirelessly manipulated their genetic code. They sought to push Astartes' physiology far beyond natural, mortal limitations. These controversial chemical modifications were designed to enhance combat reflexes and stimulate sensory perception. It was the first quiet step toward their inevitable, horrific ruin. Consider the legendary Captain Lucius. His swordsmanship was a beautiful, terrifying display of flawless technique. Yet his ego craved endless validation from every mortal audience. Their pursuit of excellence extended into vibrant artistry, majestic poetry, and complex philosophy. They truly believed they could perfectly manifest the emperor's divine vision. Their magnificent fleet brought enlightening compliance to thousands of barbaric worlds. They were golden heralds of human supremacy, bathed in the radiant light of absolute truth. Fulgrim preached that humanity could only be saved through the rigorous refinement of the body and mind. It was a noble, yet dangerously arrogant doctrine. They adorned their ceramite war plate with intricate filigree and precious gems. Every warrior became a walking monument to the boundless glory of the resplendent Imperium. Acolytes, you must understand the tragedy. This blinding magnificence was merely a fragile illusion, hiding a deep, festering insecurity within their spiritually compromised souls. The quest for flawless perfection is an impossible paradox. When an entity believes they have reached the absolute summit, the only remaining path is downwards. And so, their glorious crusade led them to the whispered edge of the unknown galaxy. It led them directly to the alien world of Leiran. This oceanic Xenos nightmare existed within towering serpentine atolls. The serpentine inhabitants were genetically sculpted to a highly disturbing standard of sheer alien perfection. Fulgrim observed their bioluminescent temples and bioengineered bodies. Instead of immediate revulsion, a quiet, dangerous fascination took root within his strategically brilliant mind. Lord Commander Eidolon prepared the assault forces with mathematical precision. Every bolter magazine was loaded following an exact, unyielding rhythmic sequence of Imperial war. Thousands of drop pods penetrated the alien atmosphere like divine meteorites. The Adeptus Astartes struck the coral fortresses with absolutely breathtaking, synchronized brutality. The Palatine blades danced through the Xenos' defensive lines. Their crackling power swords dismantled the enemy forces with elegant, completely devastating mechanical efficiency. The Leiran retaliated using strange, oscillating sonic projectors. These acoustic weapons unleashed localized concussive waves that heavily tested the integrity of our ceramite plates. Yet the Third Legion advanced without a single flaw in their formation. They countered the sonic bombardments through perfectly calculated, overlapping fields of fire. Apothecary Fabius Bile harvested glowing chemical samples from the silenced alien machinery. He silently analyzed their unnatural biological enhancements under heavy tactical bombardment. He realized these creatures possessed synthetic nerve clusters meant to amplify combat stimulation. This dark revelation sparked a forbidden curiosity within his twisted logic. The Imperial vanguard finally breached the central Leiran sanctuary. It was a dizzying, kaleidoscopic cathedral of alien worship, vibrating with unseen, chaotic resonance. Stepping into the kaleidoscopic hall, the Primarch encountered a sensory overload. The atmosphere was incredibly thick, saturated with potent, mind-altering chemical perfumes. Resting upon a warped central altar lay an exquisite silver weapon. A uniquely curved blade adorned with a massive, mesmerizing violet gemstone at its hilt. His honor guard secured the glowing perimeter meticulously. The crackle of their vox casters was the only disciplined sound within the hypnotic, pulsing alien cathedral. Drawn by its undeniably flawless craftsmanship, the Phoenician reached forward. He ignored standard containment protocols, driven by a sudden, intense craving for absolute perfection. As his armored gauntlet closed around the silver hilt, a subtle dark frequency pulsed through his pristine armor. A silent corruption officially commenced. The Laren species was thoroughly eradicated according to Imperial decree. However, the true victory belonged to a sinister entity hiding within the stolen weapon. Returning to the fleet, a dreadful transformation began. Fabius Bile commenced unauthorized surgical modifications on commanders, forcefully installing rudimentary sonic augmentation arrays. Their vocal cords were replaced with heavy synthetic resonance chambers. They intended to weaponize their voices, mimicking the lethal acoustic technology of the conquered. Acolytes. Observe how quickly noble ambition degrades into heretical experimentation. The pursuit of ultimate supremacy blinded them to the whispering shadows in their minds. They sought to enhance their physical forms beyond human limits. They actively prepared the grand stage for a truly horrifying cultural and spiritual collapse. The Emperor's children genuinely believed they were ascending to a higher state of majestic grace. They were proudly refining their bodies to flawlessly reflect their divine purpose. Their grand expeditionary fleets sailed through the cold stars, bringing a resplendent golden era of cultural enlightenment to countless worlds previously shrouded in complete darkness. Yet the radiant Phoenician remained utterly captivated by his stolen alien prize. He spent endless hours gazing into the mesmerizing violet depths of the cursed gemstone. The silver weapon hummed with a deceitful, predatory frequency. It quietly fed upon his monumental pride, slowly rewriting his noble thoughts with beautiful, chaotic hallucinations. Thus, the pinnacle of martial excellence began to rot from the inside out. The stage was set for a monumental betrayal that fractured the galaxy. We now approach the catastrophic turning point, my acolytes. The fateful gathering known as the Maraviglia, a grand theatrical performance meant to celebrate their conquests. Within a colossal marble auditorium aboard their flagship, the entire legion assembled. The atmosphere was suffocatingly thick, saturated with highly potent experimental chemical perfumes. Blinded composers sat before impossibly complex arrays of stringed instruments and immense metallic pipes. They prepared to unleash a symphony unlike any human had ever heard. Primarch Fulgrim presided over the grand congregation from a magnificent elevated throne. His immaculate armor reflected the dizzying multicolored lights pulsing across the sprawling theater. Suddenly, the initial harmonic chord struck the air. It was a terrifying, overwhelming wave of sound that aggressively assaulted the senses of every warrior. These were not ordinary musical notes, but weaponized acoustic frequencies. The deafening resonance shattered the massive crystal chandeliers suspended high above the bewildered, armored audience. Captain Lucius watched as agonizing vibrations distorted the physical space around the stage. A sickening thrill of extreme sensation forcefully bypassed his disciplined martial mind. The noble warriors of the Third Legion lost their disciplined formations. The agonizing music triggered dormant chemical modifications previously implanted by apothecary Fabius Bile. Ceramite plates vibrated violently until they fractured. Warriors collapsed under the immense auditory pressure, completely paralyzed by an intoxicating mixture of extreme pain and pleasure. From his throne, the Primarch raised the shimmering Laer blade. The cursed violet jewel flared with blinding intensity, harmonizing perfectly with the horrific, destructive symphony. The sheer magnitude of sensory overload tore a physical hole in reality. From the swirling, fragrant mists, entities of pure nightmare gracefully materialized without warning. They were the lithe dancers of the Prince of Pleasure. Their bladed appendages moved with terrifying elegance, dismantling the sturdy defensive lines without any hesitation. Instead of resisting the demonic incursion, several corrupted Astartes embraced the chaos. They violently seized the massive acoustic instruments, turning them upon their own loyal brothers. The grand auditorium transformed into an apocalyptic theater of madness. The glorious symphony degraded into a localized civil war, fueled by unimaginable dark desires. The once glorious Maraviglia theater devolved into a frantic, localized battleground. Desperate loyalists formed defensive cordons, but their pristine bolters could not silence the warp's resonance. Valiant brothers exchanged furious fusillades with those who had completely succumbed to the abyss. Blue and red muzzle flashes illuminated the suffocating, perfumed darkness continually. Corrupted warriors hoisted stolen acoustic projectors. They directed localized concussive blasts that pulverized defensive barricades and shattered the remaining marble pillars into hazardous, jagged shrapnel. The resulting sonic shockwaves forcefully bypassed heavy armor plates entirely. Loyal defenders collapsed as their internal augmetics violently malfunctioned under the immense, unnatural auditory pressure. Amidst the heavy crossfire, demonic entities of Slaanesh darted with impossible, dizzying speed. Their elongated, bladed claws systematically dismantled the most heavily fortified tactical positions. Elite Palatine blades engaged the lithe abominations in a terrifying, beautifully tragic dance of death. Crackling power swords met alien appendages, showering the fractured floor. High above the frantic skirmish, the majestic Primarch simply observed the absolute ruin. The cursed layer blade pulsed steadily, feeding upon the collective sensory extremes. Captain Lucius reveled in the swirling madness. His legendary swordsmanship became increasingly erratic, driven by an insatiable, horrifying thirst for absolute physical and emotional stimulation. Apothecary Fabius Bile calmly navigated the chaotic crossfire. He callously extracted valuable chemical glands from fallen brothers, seeing only raw materials for his future experiments. A unified chord from a dozen sonic blasters completely leveled the western gallery. The sheer force of the terrifying vibration rendered heavy bolters utterly useless. Proud centurions desperately hoisted their sacred legion banners, only to watch the ornate fabrics dissolve into fine mist beneath the vibrant, relentless acoustic onslaught. The traitors' vocal cords were heavily modified with dark cybernetics. They unleashed deafening roars that physically repelled incoming projectiles, defying the fundamental laws of reality. More pallid silhouettes continuously poured through the glowing, ruptured spatial tear upon the grand stage. The perfumed atmosphere grew impossibly dense with unnatural, suffocating energies. Lord Commander Eidolon opened his augmented jaw, emitting a highly concentrated scream. The blast forcefully expelled loyalists backward, cracking their thick ceramite plates like fragile glass. Even the mighty ancient dreadnoughts awoke from their slumber to restore order. Their massive assault cannons roared, bravely attempting to cleanse the grand theater of profound heresy. However, the towering walking sarcophagi were quickly overwhelmed. Concentrated sonic barrages overloaded their primary auspex sensors, leaving the venerable ancients completely blind and highly disoriented. Graceful fiends swiftly severed the heavily armored power cables. The massive war machines ground to a tragic, sparking halt beneath a rising tide of unnatural horror. Magnificent stained glass portraits of the Emperor shattered completely. The holy visage was replaced by the shifting, hypnotic colors of the malevolent Prince of Pleasure. The desperate resistance slowly crumbled under the sheer weight of extreme sensory overload. The Loyalists were systematically silenced, their noble sacrifices overshadowed by an agonizing symphony. My faithful acolytes, the true tragedy lies not in their physical defeat, but in the complete, willing surrender of their noble souls to eternal depravity. The once glorious Maraviglia theater transformed into a silent monument to their profound failure. A toxic smog heavily lingered over the fractured, glittering crystal ruins permanently. Countless loyal brothers fell to ruin, betrayed by the very commanders they trusted implicitly. Their silenced bodies became mere stepping stones for a twisted, dark ascension. The sacred Palatine Aquila was irreversibly defiled. It sank deeply into iridescent puddles of synthetic chemicals, dissolving alongside their once unbreakable oaths of unwavering Imperial loyalty. Standing amidst the apocalyptic devastation, Primarch Fulgrim fully embraced the whispering shadows. His divine intellect was entirely consumed by the alien consciousness hiding within his blade. Lord Commander Eidolon actively organized the systematic purging of any remaining dissenters. His mechanical throat projected agonizing frequencies to perfectly silence their final, tragic pleas. Captain Lucius deliberately scarred his own immaculate armor, seeking intense validation through self-inflicted ruin. a horrifying testament to a legion completely devoid of true martial discipline. Apothecary Fabius Bile eagerly collected the broken remnants of his fallen kin. He envisioned terrifying new genetic modifications birthed from this monumental, chaotic catastrophe. The corrupted fleet decisively turned away from the Emperor's guiding light. They enthusiastically charted a dark course towards the most treacherous, churning depths of the warp. We must now confront the lingering mysteries, my diligent acolytes. What terrifying phenomena awaited them within the blinding, swirling madness of the treacherous Eye of Terror? Ancient scrolls detail an illogical, pervasive shift in reality surrounding their dread vessels. The physical laws of the universe simply ceased to function near their presence. Starlight literally dissolved into vibrant, weeping colors outside their viewing decks. They had willingly entered a bizarre domain where temporal logic and physical boundaries completely collapsed. A monumental, shadowy entity observed their steady descent with immense satisfaction. It was the insidious Prince of Pleasure, a dark god perfectly sustained by boundless excess. Their sonic weapons began to resonate autonomously, vibrating with an eerie, unseen frequency. The lifeless metal instruments enthusiastically responded to the overwhelming, ambient, chaotic energies nearby. Artificial gravity wildly fluctuated aboard their magnificent warships. Yet the twisted legionaries simply danced through the disorienting, gravity-defying corridors, utterly intoxicated by the pervasive cosmic madness. The layer blade violently pulsed like a living, grotesque heart. It continuously pumped a radiant, corruptive aura directly into the heavily compromised soul of the Primarch. Kneeling before the demonic artifact, Fulgrim willingly offered his divine essence. He foolishly sought a profound, transcendent illumination that only ultimate, agonizing damnation could ever provide. Lithe demonic servants whispered impossible paradoxes into unyielding marble statues. The stone structures miraculously wept, dark, viscous fluids, actively responding to the incredibly potent psychic pollution. Their dreadful acoustic projectors learned to consume the thick, ambient, toxic fog directly. They transformed atmospheric pollution into devastating, highly concentrated projectiles of pure sonic agony. Observe carefully, acolytes. This was not merely a military rebellion. It was a deeply terrifying metaphysical transformation that permanently warped the fundamental fabric of their existence. Even these ancient, blessed records struggle to contain the illogical truth perfectly. The ink forcefully twists itself, attempting to vividly describe a horror beyond mortal comprehension. The majestic Phoenician became a terrifying champion of Slanesh. His flawless physical form twisted into a radiant, multi-limbed, serpentine entity of pure, agonizing excess. His tragic legion followed him into eternal damnation. They mutated into horrific, noise-worshipping monstrosities, completely unrecognizable from the noble defenders they once truly were. They now roam the treacherous galaxy as wandering warbands. These addicted warriors perpetually seek new, extreme sensations to briefly satisfy their hollow, decaying souls. Their cursed acoustic weapons continuously broadcast a maddening symphony of absolute despair. Every destructive frequency actively tears at the very fragile fabric of reality. Look upon Captain Lucius, now trapped in a vicious cycle. He constantly seeks worthy opponents, entirely driven by a deeply ingrained, unnatural, blinding arrogance. Whenever he falls, the Dark Prince cruelly resurrects him. The agonizing visages of his conquerors are permanently etched onto his warped ceramite plating forever. Apothecary Fabius Bile abandoned his glorious brothers entirely. He became a solitary architect of flesh, conducting unspeakable genetic experiments across the fractured, burning stars. Lord Commander Eidolon blindly leads chaotic, fractured warbands. His thunderous mechanical voice shatters sturdy fortresses, demanding impossible perfection from a thoroughly corrupted, broken galaxy. Live demonic servants perpetually dance through the devastated ruins of their once great civilization. A chilling reminder that absolute pride inevitably invites profound, demonic corruption. The shattered golden eagle lies forgotten beneath toxic dust. It is a tragic relic of a magnificent era, that can absolutely never be restored. From the swirling depths of the Eye of Terror, their maddening symphony still echoes violently. It constantly threatens to completely consume the vulnerable Imperium. Unseen psychic scars permanently mar the galaxy. Even silent stone monuments seemingly weep viscous, dark fluids when exposed to their deeply lingering, traumatic resonance. They traded the Emperor's glorious light for a bottomless void. Their arrogant pursuit of ultimate sensation left them completely numb, craving impossible, agonizing stimuli. The dreadful echoes of the Maravilla finally begin to fade from this chamber. We must carefully seal these corrupted, tragic memories away once more. I gaze upon the decaying vellum with immense sorrow. To witness such profound majesty transformed into absolute degradation is a heavy, terrible intellectual burden. My trembling hands slowly roll the crumbling parchment closed. The horrifying saga of the Third Legion is hereby secured within the dark, silent archives. The hovering servo skull dutifully dims its singular pale optic light. It prepares to return to the shadowy metallic rafters of the suffocating silent sanctuary. I apply the heavy metallic seal upon the ancient document. A solemn, quiet prayer is mouthed to protect my vulnerable soul from creeping madness. The single, solitary candle flickers violently against the encroaching darkness. Its weak, golden flame struggles desperately against the overwhelming, cold weight of hidden history. With a sudden, chilling gust of stale air, the flame perishes completely. Only the suffocating silence of the Sanctum of Oaths remains behind now. Let this harrowing chronicle serve as a stern, unyielding warning to all who dare to seek impossible perfection in this unforgiving, brutal galaxy. The majestic Emperor's children reached for the absolute pinnacle of divine grace, only to violently plummet into the deepest, darkest abyss of eternal depravity. Their magnificent, radiant armor became a grotesque prison of endless torment. Their glorious symphony decayed into a terrifying, agonizing cacophony of absolute madness entirely. When towering pride violently eclipses humble duty, the soul becomes a willing vessel for the most horrific, insidious evils of the treacherous warp. We must remain forever vigilant, my faithful acolytes. The seductive whisper of chaotic perfection constantly seeks to unravel our fragile, hard-won imperial sanity. To desire flawlessness is a distinctly human trait, but to aggressively sacrifice one's noble humanity for it is the ultimate, irreversible, catastrophic betrayal. May the Master of Mankind shield our vulnerable minds from such blinding, radiant arrogance. May their tragic fall serve as our enduring, vital armor. Remember their agonizing fate whenever vanity clouds your disciplined judgment. The darkest shadows often hide directly behind the most intensely blinding, magnificent lights. Thus I conclude this grim, harrowing record of the fallen Third Legion, actively praying for our eternal salvation. Imperator, gloria in excelsis terra. If you survive this dark archive, please leave a like, share this faithful record, and subscribe to the channel for more grim lore.